Christmas looked flawless. The lights were warm and steady. The turkey scent floated through the house, and the table gleamed with polished silver and crisp linens. Aisha Everett had been on her feet all day, making sure everything would be perfect for her husband, Desmond Hayes. As she straightened a red ribbon on a napkin ring, a thought flickered through her head. Maybe tonight we finally find some peace. The doorbell rang. Aisha opened the door with a practiced smile that hid how tired she was. The smile died on her lips. Desmond stood there, smug, but he wasn't alone. Next to him was a younger woman in an expensive coat, her rounded belly impossible to miss. "What is this?" Aisha asked. Her voice was steady, but disbelief ran through it like a fault line. Desmond breezed past her without meeting her eyes. The young woman followed, wearing a cool little smirk. "It means it's time you heard the truth," Desmond said, shrugging out of his coat like he'd just walked into a surprise party thrown in his honor. Aisha trailed them into the living room, every muscle tightening. "The truth?" she repeated, keeping her composure by force. Her gaze landed on the woman's hand, moving theatrically across her stomach. "This is Vanessa," Desmond announced like he was introducing an old friend. "She's carrying my baby." He looked her dead in the eye. "Something you were never able to give me." The words struck like a body blow. Aisha felt the floor tilt, but she caught herself. "Not here, not now, not in front of them. Your child," she said, buying a second to breathe. She needed her brain to catch up. Desmond sank onto the sofa, arrogance inflating to fill the room. "Are you shocked? After all these years, it was inevitable I'd go looking for what you couldn't provide? Vanessa is whole. You," he flicked his fingers, "a pretty facade. Nothing inside." Silence pressed in. Aisha hid her shaking hands behind her back. She wouldn't let either of them see even one tear. "And you thought Christmas was the right day for this?" she asked at last, voiced flatter and stronger than she felt. Vanessa spoke for the first time. "Desmond wanted me here. He wants us to learn to coexist. It's not like you have somewhere else to be." Aisha turned to Desmond, stunned. "Coexist? What are you talking about?" He stood and came closer, wearing that condescending look that always made her feel small. "Don't act like a martyr. I've carried the weight of your emptiness for years. It's not my fault you can't do the most basic thing, give me a child. Stop dragging me down." Tears burned, but Aisha blinked them back. She would not give him the satisfaction. "You're vile," she said, each syllable sharp as glass. He laughed once, dry and cruel. "Call me what you like. Here's how it is. If you want to stay in this house, you accept the situation." Her heart cracked. She wanted to scream, slam plates, throw them both out. Something else stopped her. From the corner of the room, the TV, which had been cycling through background holiday programming, suddenly flashed a breaking news banner. The anchor's tone was urgent. Desmond's face drained of color. His attention snapped to the screen. Aisha turned to Desmond, blinking through the blur. Vanessa stepped closer to Desmond. "What is it? What's wrong?" Aisha watched Desmond's bravado crumble. Whatever was on that screen scared him, really scared him. Curiosity lit inside her. Small, bright, dangerous. Desmond lunged forward and stabbed the power button. The TV went dark. "We're leaving," he said, already reaching for his coat. But Vanessa started. He didn't answer. He hustled her toward the door. Just before stepping out, he glanced back at Aisha. "This isn't over." The door shut. The house swallowed the sound and went still. Aisha stood there, finally letting the tears fall. Not for long. Somewhere under the hurt, a steady flame caught. In the wreckage of her ruined holiday, she promised herself one thing: never again. Cold air slid through a window she'd forgotten to latch. The place that had felt warm and bright an hour earlier now seemed stripped bare, as if his betrayal had taken all the color with it. Aisha sat on the sofa, too wrung out to move, eyes swollen from crying. A sudden crash jolted her. The wall clock slipped and smashed on the floor without warning, its glass shattering into bright, useless shards. She stared at it. The metaphor was so on the nose she almost laughed. Her life looked just like that, pieces everywhere. Her phone buzzed. "I hope you rethink this. I don't have time for your dramatics, Desmond wrote, the arrogance back in full force. Aisha's jaw tightened. How dare he? She typed a reply, searing, precise, but stopped. He didn't deserve another word. Another message landed. Worse. A photo. Vanessa sprawled in the master bed Aisha had shared with Desmond. The caption, "Your time here is over. This is mine now." Something in Aisha snapped. She pushed to her feet, phone in hand. A sharp pain speared her chest. Her knees gave. The room spun into black. An ambulance siren cut the winter quiet. A neighbor had heard the thud when Aisha collapsed and called 911. As paramedics loaded her onto a gurney, someone asked, "Any family we can notify?" Aisha tried to say there was no one nearby. Her husband was busy with his mistress, and her mother lived hours away. No sound came. She let the darkness pull her under. Hospital lights hurt when she opened her eyes. A nurse hovered, gentle and efficient. She said softly when she noticed Aisha was awake, "You had a severe anxiety attack. Your body shut down under the stress." Your body shut down under the stress, the words echoed, courtesy of Desmond. By the time they discharged her, the sky was pale. She stood outside the hospital doors, not knowing where to go. Home no longer felt like home. She couldn't bear to set foot in a place he desecrated. She walked. Then she rode the first bus headed north. When she knocked on her mother's small house in Greensboro, North Carolina, dawn was just breaking. Brenda Everett opened the door and, seeing her daughter's face, pulled her into a fierce hug. "What did they do to you?" Brenda asked, voice rough with worry. Aisha tried to speak. The story spilled instead. The humiliation, Desmond's words, Vanessa's belly, the hospital. Brenda held her like she had when Aisha was little and scraped her knees, hands in her hair, calm around the edges of panic. "That man isn't worth the dust on your shoes," Brenda said at last. Firm and certain. "You are not what he called you. He just threw away something precious. He'll regret it." "I feel like nothing," Aisha whispered into her mother's shoulder. Brenda tipped Aisha's chin up and looked straight into her eyes. "Don't ever say that again. He taught you that lie. Don't repeat it. This is your chance to show him you don't need him." Aisha didn't answer, but deep down, something small and stubborn lit up. They spent the day talking, then not talking, in the comfortable way only mothers and daughters can. In the afternoon, Aisha took a walk through the quiet town to clear her head. A flyer taped crookedly to a window snagged her attention. "Community theater auditions. Find your voice on stage." Aisha almost smiled. Before she married Desmond, she'd acted. She'd given it up. For him, for the life he said they were building. Theater felt like another life. But the sign tugged at her. Could she get a piece of herself back? When she returned to her mother's, her phone buzzed again. "I expect you to be reasonable when you come back. Vanessa is here to stay. 2 choices. Accept it or leave for good." Aisha stared at the screen. For the first time, his words didn't feel heavy. He'd shown her exactly who he was. She would show him who she was. She found herself smiling. Small, but real. It felt like something long lost. Hope. Aisha woke before sunrise with a feeling she barely recognized. Defiance. Desmond's last message still echoed, but instead of crushing her, it pushed her forward. She dressed, wrapped a scarf tight, and headed for the little community theater with its peeling paint and crooked sign. Inside, the place buzzed with low chatter. On stage, a handful of actors ran lines. A tall man with sharp eyes stood in the aisle, arms folded, watching everything like a hawk. He didn't look up when he spoke. "Looking for someone?" he asked, voice clipped. "I saw the audition notice," Aisha said, stepping closer. "I'd like to read." He glanced at her. "What do you bring?" "A passion I walked away from," Aisha answered, steadier than she felt. "I want it back." He snorted. "Everyone says that." He nodded towards the stage. "Go on, show me." Her first try was a mess. Her voice wobbled, her hands didn't know what to do. Halfway through, her mind blanked and the lines vanished. A couple of actors whispered to each other. The director sighed audibly and shook his head. "This isn't a hobby," he said, arms crossing. "If you came for applause just for trying, you're in the wrong room." Aisha's cheeks burned. She locked her jaw. "Give me another shot." He arched a brow. "I don't do do-overs." "Make an exception," she said, surprising herself. Her voice didn't shake. A few snickers floated up from the seats. The director watched her for a long beat. Then He jerked his chin at the stage. 5 minutes. The second read wasn't perfect, but it wasn't timid. She found breath. She found focus. She found a sliver of the old current that used to run through her. When she finished, the director nodded once. I'm Caleb Stone. You can stay, but you'll work twice as hard as everyone else. This isn't charity. I don't want charity, she said. I want the work. The weeks that followed were brutal. Caleb had no patience for half measures. He stopped scenes midline, called out sloppy choices, and dismantled bad habits without padding the blow. That's the best you've got? He barked. One night when she bobbled a cue, a few actors laughed under their breath. Aisha bit her tongue and started again. She went home every night with an aching body and a brain full of doubt. But the mirror began reflecting someone new, someone who stood a little taller every day, someone who wasn't defined by what she lacked. Late one evening, as she drilled a monologue, her phone buzzed. Without me, you're nothing, Desmond wrote. Aisha tightened her grip on the phone until her knuckles whitened. She didn't respond. She lifted her eyes, stared herself down in the glass, and delivered the speech again, this time as if he were standing right in front of her. By opening night, the lines lived in her bones. Her marks were muscle memory. The nerves were there, sure, but so was something stronger. The small house was packed. From behind the curtain, Aisha peeked out at the rows of faces and froze. Desmond sat 3 seats in from the aisle, wearing that familiar look, amused, superior, expectant. Ready? Caleb asked softly at her shoulder. Aisha inhaled. Ready, she said, and refused to let him take this moment from her. When the lights rose and the first line left her mouth, something clicked. Aisha wasn't reciting anymore. She was inhabiting. Every beat landed, every gesture drew the audience closer. Vulnerability and steel braided together until the room held its breath. From his seat, Desmond stared, wide-eyed, disbelieving. This wasn't the woman he'd tried to break. This was someone powerful, sure-footed, magnetic. Someone who didn't look to him for permission to exist. The curtain call thundered. Aisha stepped forward into a wall of applause, shoulders back, chin high. She found Desmond in the crowd. Their eyes met. She gave him a small, cool smile. Not thanks for coming, more like, look what I am without you. Later, walking back to her mother's place, the night air felt like champagne in her lungs. Pride warmed her from the inside. It had been so long since she'd felt anything like it. Hours after the performance, Desmond paced their old living room, the TV droning. An anchor talked about a widening FBI probe into public corruption and dirty contracts. Desmond smacked the remote to silence. The report? He didn't need a play-by-play. He'd already felt the ground shifting under his feet. A knock. The door opened before he could decide whether to answer. Aisha stepped in, no permission asked, calm and coiled with purpose. What are you doing here? He bluffed, trying for nonchalance and missing. I need you to hear me, she said, setting her purse on the console with a decisive thud. We're not going to play your games anymore. He straightened, reclaiming that old sneer. Oh yeah? And what's that supposed to mean? Aisha faced him squarely. I lived here with you for years. I parked my dreams, I shrank my life because you said we were a team. Then, when my body didn't cooperate the way you demanded, you brought another woman into my house on Christmas, and you told me to make room for her like I was a guest. He opened his mouth. She lifted a hand. Don't speak. You called me empty. You called me less, and you expected me to accept it. Here's the thing, Desmond. I respect myself because if I don't, no one will. He clenched his jaw but said nothing. You, she continued, voice steady, you don't have a shred of dignity. Instead of facing your mess, you hid behind a pregnant mistress and cheap cruelty. And now look at you, boxed in by the consequences you created, because that's how this works. You pay for what you do. His mask slipped. What do you even know about my problems? he snapped. She gave a short, humorless laugh. Enough. I know the breaking news you panicked about has your name all over it. I know those greasy side deals you used to feel important are finally dragging you under. I know Vanessa ran when the heat turned up. And I know one more thing. I'm not sorry. You earned this. He slammed his fist against the table. Everything I did to keep this house, to give us a better life. No, she said softly, crossing her arms. You did it to feed your ego, to play big man. And now you've lost it all. He sank into a chair, deflated, staring at his hands. For once, there were no slick comebacks, no spin. I could have helped you, she said after a beat. I would have. I did for years. But you taught me what I meant to you. So now you mean nothing to me. He lifted his head, eyes sparking with anger. So you came to gloat? I came to draw a line. You don't control me. Not anymore. You are not part of my life. She picked up her purse and walked to the door. Paused. I hope you figure your mess out, she said without looking back. But this time, you'll do it alone. The latch clicked behind her, leaving Desmond motionless in a room that felt emptier than it ever had before. Days later, Aisha studied her reflection in a dressing room mirror. Chin lifted, eyes clear. Determination stared back. So did something she thought she'd lost. Genuine happiness. Her phone lit up with another wave of requests. Interviews, photo shoots, producer meetings. Ever since that first knockout performance, her name kept surfacing in bigger rooms. Headlines followed like a tide. The actress who rose from the ashes, Aisha Everett, a revelation. Her screen buzzed again. Desmond, Aisha, I need to see you. It's urgent. Please forgive me. I'm paying for my mistakes. She exhaled through her nose, set the phone face down, and finished getting ready. This wasn't the first message. They'd grown more frantic lately. She owed him nothing. Not answers, not time. That night, the downtown Atlanta theater was packed to the balconies. The curtain fell to a roar. Aisha stepped into the wings, adrenaline still singing through her. She wove into the lobby to thank donors and greet audience members when she spotted him. Desmond, shoulders hunched, eyes rimmed red. Aisha, please, he said, voice breaking. Just a minute. She folded her arms, spine straight. What do you want? I'm begging you. Talk to me. Somewhere private. Against her better judgment, she led him to a quiet corner around the bend from the stage door. Words tumbled out of him. I blew it. The business went sideways. The investigation. Aisha, I could go to prison. I lost everything. I have no one. I need your help. She studied him, really looked. The panic was real, but so was the self-interest. He wasn't here because he loved her. He was here because he was drowning. And why would I help you? She asked, voice even. Because you have a good heart, he said, reaching. We all mess up. I was a fool. I didn't know what I had. I failed you, and I'm sorry. But this is serious. If you don't help me, his voice cracked. I don't know what happens to me. She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. A second chance like the one you gave me when you brought a mistress into my home on Christmas? When you called me empty? No, Desmond, this isn't about forgiveness. This is about consequences. He slid to his knees, heedless of the people drifting past with programs in hand. Please, I can't go to jail. She looked down at him like he was a stranger. I can't save you. I don't even think I want to. This, exactly this, is what your choices bought. He stared up, eyes wet, waiting for mercy that wasn't coming. I hope you learned something, she said, stepping back. But it'll be without me. I'm not your savior. I never was. She turned and walked away, back into the hum of congratulations and camera flashes, leaving him kneeling on the tile, while the theater celebrated the woman he tried to break. Morning light spilled across the suite Aisha was calling home between shows. Her calendar was crammed edge to edge. Press hits, photo shoots, producer meetings. Instead of feeling buried, she felt buoyant. She'd clawed her way here. She wasn't going to take a second of it for granted. On the coffee table sat a stack of contracts, new roles, a Broadway offer, even an endorsement that would make her a household name. She paused, stepped out onto the small balcony, and filled her lungs with cold air. The memory of sleepless nights on her mother's couch drifted in and out like ghosts. Now it felt like another lifetime. "Thank you for this," she whispered, hands resting on the railing. Gratitude had become a practice. That afternoon, she slid into a studio couch under warm lights for a primetime interview. The host smiled. "Aisha, people can't stop talking about your rise. What's your secret?" She answered with an easy, honest smile. "Work, faith, and surrounding myself with people who see me clearly. I went through some very hard things, but they made me stronger. I learned not to quit." "Your performances feel personal," the host said, "like they're carrying something lived." "They are," Aisha said, thoughtful. "Every character gets a piece of me. Pain translates, so does joy. If I can reflect that truth back to an audience, I'm doing my job." The applause that followed was warm and generous. As she left the set, her phone buzzed with a call from Brenda. "Baby," her mother said, voice thick with pride, "Mrs. Elena called me. Remember her? Saw a piece on you and said she always knew you had something special." Aisha laughed. "Mrs. Elena? The woman who used to grade my school plays in the front row? That's a turn." "She's not the only one," Brenda said softly. "I'm proud of you, Aisha. You were stronger than any of us knew, including you." Aisha blinked away, set in tears. "Thank you for never letting go of me, Mom." The next day, a headline ambushed her in the lobby of her hotel. Desmond's name, in bold, stitched to an ongoing corruption probe. She read it despite herself. Manipulated contracts, bribes, slush accounts, partners distancing themselves, charges likely. She set the magazine down. Satisfaction flickered, but so did a quiet resolve. Justice was the court's business. Her work was her own. That night, at a black tie gala, her name was called for Breakout Artist of the Year. The ballroom erupted. She stood at the podium, the award heavy in her hands, the moment heavier in her chest. "This means the world," she said, voice steady, eyes bright. "I want to dedicate it to anyone who's ever doubted themselves. It is never too late to begin again. Find your voice. Build your life. The world will adjust." The standing ovation washed over her like a tide. For a suspended moment, everything felt possible. Weeks later, backstage buzz vibrated through the walls of a grand, jewel-toned theater. Outside, a sea of people waited for the curtain to rise on the biggest night of Aisha's career so far. She adjusted a stray hair in the mirror and exhaled, feeling steady, ready. Her phone buzzed on the vanity. Unknown number. "Aisha, I need to talk to you. I don't know who else to ask. Please. It's about my daughter, Vanessa." Surprise swept through her, followed by a cautious curiosity. The headlines had been relentless. Indictments, arraignments, ongoing trials. Aisha typed back a simple reply and set a time. The next afternoon, she sat in a cold, echoing prison visiting room. A door buzzed. Vanessa shuffled in, thinner, the hard shine gone from her face. In her arms, a tiny baby blinked up at the fluorescent lights, soft and new, and unaware of the world that had put them both here. "Thank you for coming," Vanessa said, voice frayed. Aisha nodded and took the seat across the table. "What do you need?" Vanessa glanced down at the infant, stroked a tiny cheek. "This is Morgan, Desmond's daughter, and mine. I don't know how long I'll be in here. My lawyer says it could be years. I can't bear the thought of her growing up without anyone. She didn't choose any of this." A knot rose in Aisha's throat. The baby looked up with bright, curious eyes, her fist waving aimlessly, her mouth forming an O of surprise. Innocence personified. "Why ask me?" Aisha said quietly. "Because you're decent," Vanessa said, tears finally slipping loose. "Because you know what pain is and how to stand up again. I don't have anyone else I trust. Desmond can't. I can't. Please, take care of her. Give her the life I can't." Aisha sat very still. She hadn't imagined this. The questions came fast. Logistics, legalities, timing. But beneath them was something deeper, a tug she couldn't ignore. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Yes. Vanessa whispered, clutching the baby close and then, reluctantly, leaning forward, offering Morgan across the table. Aisha gathered the child with careful arms. The baby's weight was feather-light, warm, real. Aisha's heart swelled, stretched, then settled into a new shape. "I'll do it," she said. The decision reshaped everything. Aisha hired a vetted, kind nanny who could travel when needed. She turned a corner of her suite into a cozy nursery on the road and a sunny room back home. Late-night rehearsals became a choreography of feedings and naps. And somewhere between lines and lullabies, love grew. Unexpected, profound, anchoring. Morgan learned the world by watching Aisha. Stage lights as stars, scripts as bedtime stories, music from rehearsals as her lullaby. The company whispered and cooed and adopted the child in the way theater families do, collectively and wholeheartedly. Meanwhile, Aisha's connection with Caleb eased from sparking chemistry into something patient and real. He understood her grind, respected her boundaries, and showed up with a steady hand when chaos knocked. One evening after curtain, over takeout containers and the gentle hush of sleeping baby sounds, she told him the truth. "There's something you should know," she said, fingers laced tight. "I've taken custody of Morgan, Vanessa and Desmond's little girl. It's complicated, but I couldn't walk away." Caleb reached across the table and covered her hands with his. "It doesn't scare me," he said simply. Relief washed through her. The tension she didn't realize she was holding slid out of her shoulders. They were building something, slowly, intentionally. As the months passed, the public noticed Morgan too, the tiny constant in Aisha's off-stage life. Paparazzi shots of the actress with the baby in a sling, reading scripts in a park, a quick wave from a stage door with a soft blanket tucked under her arm. The story wrote itself. Reinvention, resilience, and a new kind of love. One evening, as Aisha rocked Morgan by the window, Caleb came in with a quiet smile. "I've been thinking," he said, sitting beside them. "I want to keep building with you, at our pace. When it feels right, when we're sure, let's make a home. The three of us." Aisha met his eyes. Her heart thudded once, bright and certain. "I want that too," she said softly, but slowly, the right way. "Slow is good," he said, resting his head gently against hers. Morgan gurgled in her sleep and Aisha looked up, gratitude warming her from the inside out. After the storm, this felt like sunlight. Aisha's backyard was strung with streamers that danced in the light breeze, and clusters of balloons bobbed over tables piled high with sweets. In the center, a frosted cake glimmered, Morgan spelled in looping gold on top. Today was for her. 1 year old. Children zigzagged across the lawn, adults clustered in cheerful knots. Morgan, in a tiny pink dress scattered with blossoms, sat in her high chair like a queen surveying her court. Wide-eyed, solemn, fascinated. Aisha straightened the bow in her daughter's hair and kissed her forehead. "Happy birthday, my love," she whispered. Caleb appeared grinning, hefting a big box wrapped in gleaming paper that caught the sun. "Main present," he announced, eyes twinkling. "Ready?" Aisha lifted Morgan from the chair so she could get a close look. "What do you think it is?" she teased as Caleb set the box down. With much ceremony and a little help, Morgan tugged at the ribbon. The lid tipped, wobbled, and a floppy-eared puppy tumbled out in a blur of fur and clumsy paws yipping with glee. An excited chorus rose from the kids. "A puppy!" Morgan squealed, tiny hands stretching toward the wriggling bundle. Aisha laughed, scooping the pup as it tried to lick everyone at once. "He's perfect," she said, scratching under his chin as his tail thumped like a drum. "What should we call him?" Caleb crouched beside them. "He looks like a Milo to me," he said. "What do you think?" Right on cue, the pup planted a wet kiss on Morgan's cheek. She let out a delighted giggle, and Aisha shook her head in surrender. "Milo it is." Morgan clapped as if she understood exactly what had happened. Aisha's chest swelled at the sight. Her daughter's joy, the puppy's happy chaos, the people she loved looking on with bright faces. "I can't believe it's been a year," Caleb said quietly when he stood, slipping an arm around Aisha's waist. "You've been Incredible. She's the miracle, Aisha replied, squeezing his hand. We're lucky to have her, and we're a good team. He nodded, watching as Morgan patted Milo with careful, delighted little taps. Laughter drifted on the warm afternoon air. Music from a speaker stitched the conversations together. The day unspooled into simple pleasures. Games in the grass, frosting smeared toddler faces, stories and soft toasts. As the sun tipped low, the backyard glowed under the string lights. Aisha called everyone to the middle of the lawn, where a basket of balloons waited, each one a bright bubble against the indigoing sky. I want to close with something special, she said, taking a balloon in her hand. Let's send up wishes for Morgan, hopes for the life ahead of her. Balloons were passed around. Caleb helped Morgan hold hers, guiding her small fingers around the ribbon. Aisha looked at the two of them, her heart in duplicate, and felt a quiet, resonant satisfaction. This against all odds. Ready? She asked. Ready, voices answered. Laughter threaded through the reply. Together, Aisha, Caleb, and Morgan released their balloons and tipped their heads back to watch. The cluster rose, drifting higher, carrying their whispered dreams until they scattered into the first stars. Milo tore across the lawn, barking happily at the retreating color, then spun in a jubilant circle and flopped at Morgan's feet, panting. Caleb wrapped an arm around Aisha's shoulders. She tucked herself into the curve of him. Morgan nestled between them.
Thank you, Aisha said softly, eyes glistening as she watched the sky. For this day, for everything. The lights twinkled overhead. Children shrieked with glee. Milo wagged so hard he nearly toppled over. Caleb pressed a kiss to Aisha's temple, and the three of them stood there, stitched together by love, effort, and an earned peace, while the last balloon winked out of sight. Later that night, when the last guest had gone and the backyard lay quiet under the string lights, Aisha carried a drowsy Morgan inside. Milo curled up by the high chair, paws twitching in puppy dreams. Caleb gathered paper plates and laughed softly when icing smudged his sleeve. In the nursery, Aisha eased Morgan into her crib and lingered, watching the steady rise and fall of her tiny chest, the half-smile babies make in sleep. She brushed a curl from her daughter's forehead and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." Out in the hall, she paused beneath a framed playbill and felt the timeline of her life stack neatly. A wrecked Christmas, a hollowed heart, a stage that gave her voice back, a child who rewrote the ending, and a love built slowly on purpose. She turned off the lights, crossed the quiet house, and stepped onto the porch with Caleb. The night was soft. The future felt wide open. Did this story land with you? Tell me where you're listening from in the comments. I'd love to meet you there. If you enjoyed it and want to support more stories like this, you can tap Super Thanks. It truly helps me keep creating. I'm excited to hear your thoughts about Aisha's journey. On screen, you'll find 2 more real-life stories I highly recommend. There's a lot more waiting on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. See you in the next life story.